When Herbert Charles Frost was born in October 1879 at 56 North Street, Guildford, his father Charles was 40 and his mother Margaret was 33. In 1901, he was living in London as a lodger at 53 Mostyn Road, which is now Mostyn Road, East 3, London. He married Jessie Louise Dean on the 2nd of April 1904 in Barnsley, Middlesex, and they had 6 children in 13 years. And at the start of the First World War, they were living at 15 Warwood Road, Popular. Herbert worked as a porter in London Hospital and was also a special constable at Limehouse Police Station. He lived in Popular in the East End of London. At the start of the war, Herbert was but a bystander. Conscription was for single men, aged 18 to 41. He stayed at home, doing what he could do to support those fighting on the front. However, things changed. In May 1916, the bill was extended to married men, and in April 1918 the upper age was raised to 50, or 56 if the need arose. One day, he opened the mail, and there in front of him was the official document. "You're hereby ordered to report for service." He'd been conscripted. The family were upset, but he'd been called up, and he duly reported for his training, joining the 1st Battalion Rifle Brigade as Private 50447 Frost HC. Then in no time at all he was sent to France. He was not a fighting man, but he knew his duty and volunteered for one of the most hazardous jobs, that of a stretcher bearer.
The Soldier by Rupert Brooke. If I should die, think only this of me, that there's some corner of a foreign field that is forever England. There shall be in that rich earth a richer dust concealed, a dust whom England bore, shaped, made aware, gave once her flowers to love, her ways to roam, a body of England's breathing English air, washed by the rivers, blessed by the sons of home. And think, this heart, all evil shed away, a pulse in the eternal mind, no less, gives somewhere back the thoughts by England given, her sights and sounds, dreams happy as her day, and laughter learnt of friends and gentleness, in hearts at peace under an English heaven.
After a general retreat through October 1918, the German army decided to make a stand in Valenciennes, a strategically located city of several thousand French civilians, and the last major French city still under German control. The German commanders believed that the Allies would not bomb a city full of French civilians and further consolidate the positions by flooding the area around the city. The attack was twice postponed for 24 hours, and during the period of waiting, the enemy artillery and the machine gun fire was fairly heavy, so that when the battalion at last moved to its assembly position in heavy rain, the troops had been subjected to considerable strain. At dusk on the 31st, 2nd Lieutenant R.G. Tarleton placed across the River Grenelle 4 bridges for the use of the right company of the Hampshire Regiment, which, with the left platoon of A Company, would form up the west of the river. This operation was well carried out. At 10 a.m. on November the 1st, companies began to move into position, and at 5:15 the barrage opened. It was very good on whole, but some of the guns were firing short and caused about 40 casualties before the battalion was due to move. At 5:30 a.m, the leading companies moved off, extending to the left to gain touch with the platoon which started from the west bank of the river. It was difficult to keep direction as the morning was misty and the smoke of the barrage made things worse. The two advances continued according to plan, the enemy offering some resistance during the first, but little in Preseau, and the blue line was reached, but by this time there were no further troops on either flank. A Company proceeded to mop up the village, a large undertaking for one company, and B Company of the Somerset Light Infantry, now reduced to 20 men, began to consolidate the support line. Before the consolidation of the front line was complete though, and before the outpost company had got out, a strong counter-attack developed from both the northeast and southeast, the enemy getting around both flanks and entering the village from north and south. At this time A Company had barely completed its task, and following its orders had joined the Somerset Light Infantry in consolidating the support line. B Company, having lost all its officers early in the attack, appears to have lost direction, and very few men reached the final objective. Charlie and India companies, now very weak and trying to hold their line 1400 yards long, with enemy all round them, fought their way back to the support line, where the remains of them joined A Company and the Somerset Light Infantry. A Company proceeded to mop up the village, a large undertaking for one company, and B Company of the Somerset Light Infantry, now reduced to 20 men, began to consolidate the support line. Before the consolidation of the front line was complete though, and before the outpost company had got out, a strong counter-attack developed from both the northeast and southeast, the enemy getting around both flanks and entering the village from north and south. At this time A Company had barely completed its task, and following its orders had joined the Somerset Light Infantry in consolidating the support line. B Company, having lost all its officers early in the attack, appears to have lost direction, and very few men reached the final objective. Charlie and India companies, now very weak and trying to hold their line 1400 yards long, with enemy all round them, fought their way back to the support line, where the remains of them joined A Company and the Somerset Light Infantry. There was continuous fighting throughout the day, and the battalion suffered a number of casualties from low-flying airplanes, of which there were some 15 in action. On the counter-attack, 9 trench mortars and a field battery were captured, although the latter and 3 of the former were lost during the counter-attack. The number of prisoners and machine guns captured could not be estimated, but about 100 of the former escaped. That night, the battalion was relieved by the 2nd Battalion and Seaforth Highlanders, and moved back about 1,000 yards for a few hours. Back home it was the beginning of November 1918. The end of the war had been announced and the family were eagerly waiting Herbert's return, while even the youngest, Stanley, only 2 years of age, who was my father, could sense there was an air of excitement. Then a telegram arrived, addressed to Jessie Frost. It was an official letter. She opened it, sat down. It was informing her that her husband had been killed on the 1st of November 1918. Just 10 days before the end of the war. The family grieved. Jessie wrote to her husband's commanding officer to find answers about the death of her beloved Herbert, and this is the letter that she received. Dear Mrs. Frost, I received your letter from the orderly room a few days ago, but I've had little opportunity of answering it before. First of all, I must apologise for not writing to you before, as I've always considered it my duty to write to the families of fallen soldiers under my command. As I only joined this company 3 days before we went into action on the 1st of the 11th, 1918, I cannot recall your dear husband to mind, but I have had all the men in the company together and obtained as much information as possible, which I'm afraid is very little. His comrades speak excellently of him, especially the other stretcher bearers, and he met his death while carrying out his duty nobly. He was carrying a soldier under very heavy shell fire in the village of Artes, south of Valenciennes, at about 2 p.m. on the afternoon of the 1st of November. A piece of shell just caught his head just above his left eye. Death was instantaneous. I should like to let you know where he is buried, but at present I cannot. But I'll make further inquiries and, if possible, return to the battlefield. All his letters have been returned from here marked deceased. The letters are then opened at the Army Post Office, and if the sender's address is enclosed, they're sent back to the sender. Regarding his effects, I can say very little. We cannot be held responsible for them. Perhaps you have an idea what the infantry go through during an attack. If you understand, then you'll agree with me that it is impossible to attend to the killed ourselves, so it has been left to those who come up behind, generally those men who are from another regiment. In any case, his effects should have been sent to you by the people who buried him. Perhaps you will receive them later. Myself and the officers of this company and his comrades greatly mourn his loss, and we all offer you our sympathy. It is very sad, and after the fight we came out of action and did not go into action again. The cellar your dear husband speaks about is in a large Chateau Artres, which we had as company headquarters a few days before going into action. I sincerely hope this letter will help you understand things. If there's anything you would like explained further, I would only be pleased to help you. I was a stretcher bearer myself at the beginning of the war for 9 months. Stretcher bearers are spoken of very little, but the work of a stretcher bearer is the work of a brave man. His risks are even greater than that of the ordinary soldier who goes forward to fight. We never force a man to be a stretcher bearer. They are asked to volunteer. That's why we always get the men that are needed for that noble work. Britain's bravest and the best are now all dead. Yours sincerely, Albert E. Salter.
When the war was over, we had a very great shock, because when my father came down to say goodbye to us, he said to me, "Look after your mother, won't you? You promise you do that." And I have. I've kept my promise. Then on the 1st of November 1918, my father was killed by shrapnel in France. We did not hear any news till after the armistice. Though on Armistice Day, George Frost, who is now in Canada, and Russell Barber and myself went up to Trafalgar Square and saw rejoicing that the war was over. Well, things altered very fast. I ever had to leave school. I was 13 and a half when I left school, and my mother was very shocked, and also with 6 children.
Dad, I'm writing to tell you about the Lord Mayor's show. On Saturday I went with Mrs. Brown. We saw all the captured guns, the farm girls and their hay and vegetables, and an aeroplane being made on a motor lorry. During the show I had a glorious time, and there were crowds of people. Oh, the glorious times when you come home again. I expect the peace terms will be received tomorrow noon, and the people are very jubilant, putting out flags, lighting lanterns. Mr. Scott was the first one in our block. A fat lot he has to put them up for. One day, Dad, I will be able to say I gave up my daddy to help with this war. That will squash someone, eh? What Mama says, she will hang her flags up and she knows that you are in England. I still wear my beads, they are très bon. I suppose someday, I hope very soon, I will know where they come from. We have not heard from you lately, but we are waiting on bit to see what tomorrow brings forth. Last Tuesday I went to see The Merchant of Venice, which I liked very much. I went with the school. The next is going to be As You Like It. On the 10th of December, George is staying for the week. He went to the Lord Mayor's show and is enjoying himself. Do you feel well and fit? Did you hear about Gus Kendall and his sister's death? Isn't it a shame? I suppose you are a proper Frenchman now. I am getting a mademoiselle. I'll write you a long letter as I don't have a chance during the week. I think it's nice to have a machine. I suppose you will read this lying on your straw mattress. Poor old Dad. Never mind, cheer up. I cannot imagine you with whiskers on your face. I expect you look older with them. Well, Dad, I must close now. And with very best love and kisses from us all. God bless you and keep you safe. Goodbye from your loving daughter, Millicent. Good luck and bon nuit. Please excuse writing as baby will wake up soon. Goodbye.